there and welcome to or welcome back to Lorena's Labyrinth. If you're a newbie to the channel, thank you very much for joining us. If you're one of our loyal folk that have been here since the beginning or very close to, thank you for your ongoing support. I really do hope that the content that we're delivering at the moment is actually stuff that you're interested in. Please do feel free to make comments. Let us know what works for you and what doesn't, because our aim is to support your requirements. Now, if I can speak, before I go any further, of course, I want to do a big acknowledgement. I want to acknowledge with a big thank you, of course, to the subscribers, the loyal ones that were there right from the get-go, our more recent ones. We're getting more subscribers and I really appreciate it. I think it's great generosity of heart and it's making the channel grow. And from my perspective, that's what it's all about. Let's get subscribers. Let's get the message out on how people can improve the quality of their life, how they can access in angels and energy, if that's what they're into. I obviously am, but more importantly, let's see people live a life of meaning, and create and foster this connection of brother and sisterhood, and that understanding that what we do for one, we do for all. So if we can help one another and show kindness to one another and give each other support through strategy and all the rest of it, then this is, to me, what life is all about. So thank you once again for being a subscriber to this channel, and thank you for sharing the information that you find here. And please do feel free to write your comments below any of the content I put up, because I don't consider myself to be a know-it-all of everything. This is just a means to opening a door to a conversation and for other people to put their own comments up and expand the pool of information and knowledge for all of us. So once again, a really big thank you from me, and I will crack on with today's video. So what's new? Okay, so there's a couple of things. In the first instance, obviously I have this idea for the content of the information that I would like to share to get the old voice out there and give stuff to people. And at the same time, I've got a creative aspect myself, and I love to have beautiful things. I've got a passion for colour as well. I also have somebody in Italy that is really brilliant with colours and artwork and graphics as well. So I can't take credit for what is actually new. We've got new Astro shorts, and they were created by Peggy using the content that I'd put up in the past, because we're starting to get a feel for what it is that we're actually doing and developing our own, sense of what it is we want to convey, how we want to convey it, how we want to make it appealing to our audience, if you like. And so we decided that actually the older reels and content that I've had up looks pretty amateurish now, because we're a few months into doing this stuff. So basically she's redesigned them. They're very pretty and they've now been uploaded. So that's the first thing with what's new, Anyway, I hope you like them. So I'm going to try and speak really quickly to get this through, because otherwise the videos take too long. All right, so you will have noticed that with the self-care on a Friday, these are the Friday videos, that the focus over the last couple of weeks has been on what we call emotional intelligence or emotional quotient. And all that is big flash words by the academic experts talking about how to raise your awareness and be emotionally functional, I guess, if I want to really simplify the words, and to develop emotional maturity. And there seems to obviously be a real lack of that around at the moment. And being able to access this kind of information, you usually get it actually through attending counsellors and psychologists, which is a paid service. So just to be clear, my knowledge extends to, it's part of my training, because I had to do part of it in my Bachelor of Social Work, and then when I did my Masters of Counselling, I went into it a bit further. So just to clarify here, I didn't actually finish my Masters of Counselling. I had to do my field placement, which I then chose to withdraw from the studies. But the beauty of this content is it teaches us how to navigate our emotions, our feelings. When we start feeling turbulent, it helps us to unpack it, and it helps us to get in there and do early interventions in positive and mature ways to be able to maintain and sustain healthy relationships. It also is really good for identifying when we're in unhealthy relationships, because our emotions are messengers to us and they tell us when we're uncomfortable. So I'll flick onto that because that is what I've put up this Friday. You will have seen the latest one on basically naming emotions. So, in regard to emotions being messengers and opening this doorway for early interventions, I'm going to give you an example of using my experience this week where I had to follow my own advice and look at it. Now, we can, just as human beings, when things happen, and they don't have to be big things, when we're emotionally astute and we pay attention to our levels of comfort, we can go in and we can take a look at the tables that I've put on there and narrow it down. And in that way, we're able to take an action to avoid things escalating. And I would say, because of course, doing these activities for myself reminds me of different things, okay? I would say that the tertiary emotions actually are the messengers, because that's how I operate. And so, for example, this week there was a little thing that happened. It wasn't a big thing, but it was something that made my comfort levels uncomfortable, for want of a better word. And then I gave thought to, well, why don't I feel comfortable? What's going on? What happened here? And it was actually an incident, and I was going to hide this, but I don't think it's necessary. It was an incident that actually occurred with my son, and it was a non-incident because he's an adult. And where I'm going with this is I personalised something. I misinterpreted an action that he took, personalised it, felt uncomfortable, felt a bit hurt, felt a bit rejected, felt a bit angry as a first response. You know, if you go into the emotions that I've got up on this video on Friday, it would be narrowed back to angry. I'm not saying I was angry, because that's quite reactive. I was in the tertiary stage of anger being the big explosive primary emotion. So I was able to establish I was in the angry zone, shall we say, early stages of anger. So I was able to give thought to, how was I going to address this? Because this is a relationship that I want to retain, and I want it to be a healthy relationship because I'm the mother, of course, even though my son's an adult. So what I did was I really broke it down, and I realised that by looking at the tertiary emotions, I was able to establish that there were some feelings of hurt and rejection, followed by guilt and shame, because I felt guilty because I actually was a bit passive aggressive within the situation. I could have taken warm and loving actions, but decided to be cold and indifferent instead, you know, just harnessing and holding back myself. Now, these are not things that we consciously think about at the time they're happening. These are the subconscious actions that we unpack. So then I felt guilty, and I had a little level of shame attached to that because I thought I could have handled that better as a human being. So I processed it, gave myself a couple of hours, and then decided to send my son an email, because I realised that within this process of emotions, that actually I may have misinterpreted the action as well. This is a bit of unpacking emotions and exploring them. And that if I had a conversation with him, that perhaps the action that he took was one that he considered to be considerate and respectful and kind to me, but I had turned it around in my own head to be less than kind, okay? So the beauty of this is, and this is the early intervention, I sent him an email, and it was just a, hey, because I'm Australian, hey mate, just wanted you to know I feel a little bad, you know, I owned my emotions. I feel a little bad that I didn't, actually I may as well say take you to the airport, right? Anyway, where am I going with this? Yes, I was concerned that you must have felt that you needed to call an Uber rather than ask me. I love to hear you laugh, right? I've done all of these things, and sometimes, yes, I do get cross because sometimes it feels like you're gaslighting me. Just put it down like that. But I finished it up with, can we work on our communication a little bit better, please, next time we speak? And then I let it go. And then I gave him a follow-up phone call 24 hours later and did the, hey, mate, how you going? Did you get my email? Thank you. You know what I mean? And then it was like, so were you okay? What was the story with the Uber? And then he explained it to me from his perspective, because I wasn't attacking him or judging him. And it was just like, yeah, no, I know you could have taken me to the airport, but it only cost me $18 and it seemed easier, saved you the troubles of driving and parking and, all of this stuff. So I was right when I unpacked my emotions and depersonalized it, that actually his actions were ones based on care and consideration, and I just somehow had distorted them in my own head. Now, I had a choice there. I could have phoned him up and done the whole big boo-hoo, you make me feel bad and sad, which would just flick him, because this is the nature of people. When we say you made me feel, it flicks people into a position of being defensive, and depending on that person's personality, they could be aggressive back, or they, you know what I mean? It just leads to unpleasantness and toxicity. So owning your own responses is a good thing. Not attacking a person is a way to keep a relationship healthy. And also, by being able to unpack our own emotions and explore them and explore the thoughts behind them, then we're able to be emotionally independent and not so emotionally needy. So basically, this is the core messages of the content that I'm putting up with this emotional quotient stuff. And it really does help. So I will be putting up an activity in the near future, just for your information, on how to unpack all the emotions, right? So that we're not putting our emotional burdens onto other people. Because the other thing is too, with healthy relationships, or with unhealthy relationships, actually, there becomes an expectation that people change to accommodate our emotional needs. And that's not really fair on them, because at the end of the day, they've got to carry their own emotional burdens, and nobody needs to be weighed down by other people's emotional neediness. That doesn't mean to say that we shouldn't get help to unpack emotional problems and learn how to manage them. But I'm just talking about when we're in relationships. But what I will be doing is this activity in the near future, where it's one that we all would do well to regularly look at, so that we can unpack and work out, hang on a moment, am I feeling burdened emotionally by my stuff, or am I carrying other people's emotional burdens? And if you're a mum and you've got multiple family members, quite often what will happen is that mums, especially working mums, take on a lot more than their own stuff. They carry a lot of people's burdens. And so this activity will help you to work out what's yours, what you want to hold on to, and what you don't, even if it's not yours, because mums tend to do that. Anyway, I hope that you will get at least some insight from the videos that I'm putting up for self-care. In regard to the numerology content, if this is what interests you, you will have noticed that last week I put up ruling 11 and I had to split it into two. So we've got the content on the ruling the ruling 11, and I put up the content on the meaning of 0 in the birth date. Now I jumped ahead with that because actually the zeros I should have included when we're talking about the birth chart content that will be coming up eventually. But for your information, tomorrow you're going to be able to access part 2, and this will include the numerological content for ruling numbers of the 22. We didn't go into the 33 because Pythagoras doesn't include 33 as a master number. So tomorrow you'll be able to access part 2 of the master 11 and information on the ruling 22, which actually is, I think, quite interesting, but that's just me. And then after that, we're going to be looking at day numbers, because day numbers are a secondary path to the ruling number. So it's kind of like the ruling number is the primary pathway. The day number is a secondary pathway. It has influence on the primary path, if this makes sense. And then the other factors that if you were doing a comprehensive numerology chart that you would be looking at, or a numerology report, excuse my croakiness, you would also include elements of the birth chart, what it means to have absent numbers on the chart, and we also will be looking at the if I can say the word, numerological pyramids. They'll be going up in the future as well. But obviously, doing these videos, they're quite lengthy, and I will try to make them shorter, but it's kind of like, if I'm giving you this information so you can do your own charts, then I need to actually be at least a little bit comprehensive. Anyway, we may at some point in time look at how to establish what your divine blueprint is through using the information of your birth time and that kind of stuff, but that will probably be the last thing that I do in the numerological series. What we do have coming, though, is that I've decided to do a personal year forecast on a monthly basis. So as we enter into February, I will load the February forecast on January 31st so that you can get an idea of what to expect over the month of February. Now, just for your information, these are not really puffed out with a load of words, okay? They're probably going to be what is short, because I don't see the point in puffing the content out unnecessarily, especially with that. Yeah, they'll be quite simple. It might be like a paragraph, but anyway, they will be coming up in February as the first ones. So in regard to the 105 universal laws, which are proving to be quite popular with people, as time goes by, I must admit that I am not always comfortable with the content that I'm providing here, and I really do question it on a conscious level, and I also question the motives and agendas of the original authors of this content, right? I know that the content is popular, and this is why I continue to load it. I do believe it's a good discussion point to chat about. I'm going to speak about this a little bit more. I do perceive that there is some truth to it, or a lot of truth to a lot of the stuff, but I also believe sometimes there's unnecessary ambiguity, and that's at the best. And then at other occasions, when I look at these laws, I can see ego. So I don't know if it's my eye is trained to it these days or what. When I see ego and superiority, that to me puts the information that a person is putting to me as questionable, because to me, divinity carries humility. Okay, that's probably the best way of describing it. Anyway, where am I going with it? I would just encourage people that if they're going to be referring to this content that is loaded here, that they retain an open mind and that they not take it as gospel, that they, if it feels right, go with it. But just because it's up there doesn't mean that it is absolutely accurate and a categoric truth. I'll just be the Anna is in. If you feel something sounds a bit wacko or whatever, put your feedback up and let people know why. Because just when you do that kind of stuff, though, if you don't mind, please use constructive language and comments to keep it as a mature dialogue and unemotive, because I think it's important, if you feel that you see something that absolutely doesn't resonate or just sounds like a load of bull dust, that you be able to put that up there for other people to see as well, as part of helping them to expand their mind. It's these feelings that I've got is why I have put up the comments by Krishnamurti on all of the universal law, because Krishnamurti, he was brought up in the Theosophical Society because he was the foster child of Annie Besant, and Annie Besant, if that's how you pronounce the name, succeeded Helen Blavatsky as head of the Theosophical Society. So I just want to make mention too, again, that there is a lot of divisive content online about the society with references to it being a cult. I do believe that we have to follow our own judgment, and at some point in time I will probably share with you on here why I became interested in Blavatsky at some point in time. And I want to make mention here too that even if we said that the motives and agendas of people like Blavatsky and Besant were pure, the reality is that when people channel information, you can't get, there was an analogy that was given to me years ago. You can't get pure water from a dirty vessel, okay? So if the channel is not clear and clean and purified properly, that may actually, what is the word? I'm having a mind blank. That may taint the substance of the information that they deliver, is probably the best way for me to describe it. So, with the universal laws, I keep trying to stress this: follow your own inner guidance and judgment. And if you see something that feels right or good or true to you, please put up a comment. And on the other hand, equally, if you feel that there's something that just sounds too whacked out, too much, make a comment. They're all welcome, okay? So there is a duality on this channel where I do deliver what is considered to be mainstream content or evidence-based clinical strategy. And then on the other hand, I draw upon spiritual and angelic information and content, because these are two aspects of who I am anyway. So I just want to make mention that angels may not be your thing, and that is just fine, because I know that some people will be coming to the channel simply for the clinical evidence-based stuff. If they're not here for the angel stuff, that's fine. Just skip on to the other stuff that's relevant to you or that resonates with you. But I would say or suggest to you, before you do skip on, perhaps you could ask yourself, especially if life is really, really challenging for you, what have you got to lose by giving angelic activities a go, or opening up to the logical concepts that angels may exist and the strategies that I provide to you as far as accessing the angels and angelic power? That might actually, if you open your mind to it, personally, I could say I absolutely believe it will. But what might it offer you? If you're closed-minded to it now, these would be the things I would be saying to myself if I was you. Well, maybe there is something to it. What have I got to lose? I've got nothing to lose. Give it a go. We have a saying here in Australia, if you don't give it a go, you'll never ever know. That was converted over into being a tourism thing, on the advertisements to encourage people to visit Australia. It was like, if you never go, you'll never know. Well, in some ways that applies to this angelic content that I'm putting up. If you don't give it a go, you'll never know, right? You got nothing to lose. Anyway, moving on. For those people who are willing to give it a go, or who are already into angels, the message from this part here is from me to you, is that there are some delays with me uploading it, and I suspect largely this is because myself and my counterpart in Italy, we can be a bit of a perfectionist in regard to the content and certainly to the visuals. And I personally want to give respect to the topic. I lost a couple of days this week. As I said, I mentioned my son earlier. I had my family come and stay. My son came and stayed with me, and so I had to take a couple of days off, which wasn't bad at all. I just wasn't available to work on the content on the channel, and I've actually realised that by having the 2 days off, it allowed me to have pause and reflect in between times, so it's not a bad thing at all. I'm almost ready to start loading the angel content, but I'm still having an inner debate at the moment on how I'm going to release them, whether I'll do it en masse or whether I'll do it each Thursday, or should I start on a Tuesday? And I think, frankly, at the end of the day, we'll all end up being surprised by how it comes out. I think I'll just follow my intuition. So, as we're talking about angels, I've decided to have a little angel yarn here this week. Something that's been on my mind more recently is that over the last 20 years, we've seen a really big, and I can't think of descriptive words for this, but it's kind of like an angelic global shift from the perspective of people immersing themselves in angel content and healing. Now, what people who are younger might not realize is that when we were coming into year 2000, everybody was doing the whole, well, not everybody, there was a lot of people with this fear that the world was going to come to an end when the clock stopped, and oh my goodness me, it was really ridiculous. But what happened in year 2000 was there was this massive global shift towards doing Reiki and alternative healing therapies. They became a lot more popular and more mainstream, more acceptable than they had been in the past. And then from there, I noticed life is cyclical. From there, it ended up going into everybody wanted to have a tarot reading. People became more open to things like psychic gifts and telepathy and all of this kind of stuff. And then the following year, it was like everybody was into angels and connecting with their angels. And it became really big. And of course, there was always that song by Robbie Williams, I was going to say Robbie What's His Face, with angels, which is just beautiful. So there was a really big thing going on with angels at that time. And probably a lot of that was to do with Doreen Virtue, because she took off. She became very big. I think it was in about 2004. And then over more recent years, there's been kind of a shift away from talking about angels and using the power and wisdom of the angels, and even a lot of fear-based content about angels. Now, I don't want to be focusing this about Doreen because obviously she's making choices for herself. What I am aware of is that her family now apparently continue to lead all of the angelic programs that she started. And I was surprised when she actually allegedly, I say allegedly because I've not seen any videos with her, when she allegedly spoke out about using angels. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because there may be people that have taken that on board and become frightened. So I want to address this fact that I believe that Doreen started out with good intention. I had joined her website back in 2004, I think it was, when I first got my computer. I was so excited to be able to reach out to people all over the world. And because I already, by that stage, had been attuned to a number of, whatever healing modalities, I had recognized that there were some questionable practices coming through her website, but it was none of my business and, that kind of thing. And just sort of observing it. And then I did actually connect with a gentleman who had worked in the administration side of another person that claimed to be, I don't even know the words to call this, another person that was kind of a PR, big public figure to do with angels. And this person had worked in the admin, and they had told me a few things that made me realise actually that there is competitiveness between industry leaders, for want of a better word. But either way, where I'm going with this is I feel that Doreen's initial good intention became exploited by her publishers, perhaps, and people around her. And if not by her publishers, the end result was that I feel her customers were exploited as well as potentially Doreen. And I ended up resigning from her website after I got emails from her office telling me who I should vote for in the American elections, which of course I'm not American anyway. And I was like, but you don't interfere, from a spiritual perspective, we don't interfere. We trust the universe that the correct actions will occur. And if I've got to say, by the way, I'm not a fan of George Bush on a humanitarian perspective, but that's got nothing to do with the price of tea in China. I also was alarmed about what might happen if he got in, and that was without any conversations with her. That was just my own inner guidance, because when people turn around and say that what happens in the US has got nothing to do with anybody else, they don't take into account that every single nation is just about affected by what is happening in the US, and Australia is part of an alliance. So yes, we're definitely impacted by American leadership. And sorry to take this, I'm not trying to take it down to a political pathway here. I'm just saying that my rationale to get an email like that was that it was actually completely inappropriate for somebody that calls themselves to be a spiritual leader to be sending these emails out. However, somebody did say to me it probably wasn't from Doreen, it was probably from somebody in her office, and that may be the case. Now, the reason why I thought that was inappropriate was because I was aware that under divine law or energy or whatever, that if we do stuff like that, then we create karma. And when you try and interfere, this part does resonate with me, then it can actually have the opposite effect. So I think she had hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people on her mailing list at the time. And for me, it was just like, yeah, that's a major breach. So I'm just going to withdraw from that. That's not energy I want to be aligned with. So I left. So anyway, where I'm going with this is that if you've taken on board stuff that is negative about angels, then that's human limitation. Okay, that's not divine. Divine energy is love, it's unconditional love. And the big observation that I made about the way Doreen's angel information came across was that I don't really see in any of her content historically, I haven't used it, and I say this respectfully, that when it was to invocations, or if she gave advice and information on how to access the angels, she actually didn't really. She would just give an affirmation on, I am aligned with, I guess I'm speculating here, you might have more information on it. But where I'm going is creator first, creator number one, angels number two, and all the angels want to do is actually primarily, number one, get you back to being aligned with creative values. And then on the second thing, well, it's not second as far as priorities go. They do this in tandem with empowering you to achieve your own goals and desires, to lead that happier life, it's all a bit complex. But anyway, I won't run this video up much longer of a time. It will unfold through the process of me putting up content. This video is getting long, so I'm going to fly through this. I continue to do the art and make the art reels. Feel free to take a look. At the moment, the focus will probably be more so on angels because I'm developing the angel content and I need images to load onto those particular videos. So yeah, take a look. Let me know what your favorites are. If there's anything you specifically want us to develop, I'm certainly happy to accommodate it. Moving on to the next slide. This video is getting long, so I'm going to fly through this. I continue to, as previously stated in every other video that I'm making for yarning, I'm going to keep pushing this self-care tool, the chakra content at people because it is so beneficial. Tried and tested by myself. If your life has hit rock bottom, it's worth a go. It's another thing like the angels. If everything's gone foul, what have you got to lose? Give it a whirl. It might make your dreams come true. As previously stated in every other video that I'm making for yarning, I'm going to keep pushing this self-care tool, the chakra content at people because... So we've already discussed the angel content that's coming. Next week I'm going to putting up a... Did I just speak properly then? I don't think so. Okay, let me rephrase. Let me be more articulate. Next week, we're going to follow up on the self-care video, the activity. It's a mindfulness one. It won't be too long, but the idea is to be able to teach you to recognize within your body, to identify your physical discomfort, which sometimes many of us will ignore. So anyway, it's a really good strategy. It's evidence-based. It's not spiritual. It's not defined as spiritual anyway. It's taught by psychologists and counsellors all over the world, I believe. And then the next thing, of course, is we're going to continue to revamp the older videos. And then in my brain, I find it actually quite difficult to focus sometimes because it's just like this whole creativity explosion going on with all these ideas that I would like to share with people, strategies that I've picked up over the years that they will help somebody. You see, all of the content that I put up is not going to be beneficial to everybody because everybody's got different tastes and approaches. Now, I just want to add to this, right? Prime example, some people, as their clairvoyance opens, they're going to see the chakras as coloured balls. Some people, when their clairvoyance opens, they see them as lotus flowers, right? Everybody is different. Not everything is beneficial to all people. And this is one of the reasons why it's kind of like me going through and doing a spring clean, if you like, of the knowledge and information that I've got in my brain and just pulling it together. And I'm kind of unpacking it going, okay, yeah, that one, I think that one's a priority to share. Okay, I'll share that one and then we'll go and we'll look at this. So this is kind of how I'm operating. And there is so much more that I would like to be able to give to you. And that's going to be my aims over the next 12 months. Okay, so feel free to share my videos, share the content. If there's something specific, please do acknowledge though the channel and give credit to myself and the channel, just so that we can be sustained, I guess, to keep that momentum happening here. And it's good for me to be able to see what people like and what they don't like, because then I can work out what I need to prioritize next. But for now, my friends, I think we are very close to the end for this week. The only thing left for me to say is thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for being part of my journey. Have a wonderful week. Many blessings wished upon you. Take care of yourself, and I will see you on the next video. Until then, much love, light, laughter. Take care. Have a great, wonderful, joyous week. See you next time. Bye-bye.